If you guys were in a house fire, what would be one of the items, one of the first things you would reach for?
Just in case Mr. McFadden is listening to this podcast, I saved my health textbook.
Has mostly everything you need to know.
Yeah, it's got information about drugs, women,
Venereal diseases, which was hardly covered in health class.
the skinny pictures in the back.
Ooh.
Scary pictures in the
Yeah,
back.
Scary.
yeah. Don't go to the back. Don't go to the back of the textbook.
The
Don't go to the back of books,
them
humans.
scary pictures.
Now, what about you?
I would probably grab a. Ooh, so this is most useful thing in a fire, or just the first thing we grab for?
In a fire. What would be like the first thing you reach for?
No,
in a
Matt,
fire?
what do you just grab for in general? Fire.
Yeah. All right,
my socks.
Matt, you wake up in the morning. What do you grab?
Himself.
Yeah. Ooh.
Sick. Nice.
Trick question.
I would definitely grab my cat.
Okay.
Yeah, it's I feel like in movies and TV shows and possibly in real life, I just feel like the animals are, everyone's like, oh, leave the animals. No, I'm getting my cat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
you
100%.
always- I feel like in the movies they always go back for the cat.
Well, hold on. No,
The little
the
kid
dogs
goes
are
back.
always grabbed in the movies. But I mean, and how many movies? And I mean, I feel like a lot of houses these days have cats. How many cats are really going for? How many cats are grabbed in the movies? So, I'm gonna break the mold, and in the event it happens.
Are you just realizing how much of a throwaway culture cats are in the world?
Everybody loves them when they talk about the crazy cat lady, but when it comes to a fire,
Nobody talks about loving them when it comes to the crazy cat lady.
yeah. What are you talking about? No, the crazy
cat lady.
Crazy
loves
cat
them.
lady is huge in culture, but then when it comes to the fire,
Yeah, but nobody
crazy
likes the
cat
crazy
lady,
cat.
Yeah.
crazy cat lady only cares about herself.
It's a stigma, though.
No, she only cares about her cats.
Not in terms of a fire.
Well, technically, the crazy
You
cat
try
lady,
getting 25 cats out of a basement.
The crazy
Well,
cat.
have you seen Mr. Deeds?
She had like 3, I think, or no.
Me kitties.
Oh my God.
No, and according to Alex Jones, they all just have. Actually, this is real. They all have toxoplasmosis, which
What the
makes
hell is that?
it's what you get when you live with animals that shit all over the place. And you don't
Especially
clean it up.
doesn't cat urine have lots of messed up stuff in it?
It's very pungent.
Yeah, right. So I feel like
It's
you have
gasoline.
that times at the very least 5.
There's
it
a-
could have a couple weird effects.
There's
on
a
you.
South Park episode where kids get addicted.
Yeah,
to,
what do they call it again?
Oh God,
People
people would shame me right now for not knowing.
No,
it, but
it's like
Shame.
y-
Shame.
it's like pissing or something like that.
oh, I can't remember.
But yeah, it's when you get high on cat urine.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the
They
episode.
I remember in the episode they stick it up on a rig, and then you put your face right by the cat's ass, and then it pisses all over you.
And of course, it was it was Kyle's dad who was
Yeah.
addicted to it in his youth.
Tim, what would you reach for in the event of a fire?
In the event of a fire, I'd probably grab probably my wallet.
Because the first thing someone's gonna ask you when you get out of a burning building is, please identify yourself.
Prove who you
Yeah.
are.
Well, no, I mean it's got everything I need for the future. It's got my my ID, or my driver's license. It's got a one of those passport cards. It's got my debit card. It's got some cash in it. So if you want to find me, I'm somewhere around New York City most days. Yeah, I mean it's everything that I need long term. Cuz then I can just buy a new phone with the debit card. Cuz why not?
I mean, your money still exists even though your debit card's burnt.
no, I grabbed my debit card.
Yeah, but I'm saying in the event you actually didn't grab your wallet, your money still exists.
This is all too convenient of a fire as well, where
Yeah,
able to
right,
sit and
yeah.
be like, you know what? I think I got everything I need to just burn it all anyway.
Regardless of our answers, I feel like if we were because obviously, you have to have a safety meeting point after a fire, right? I mean, that's the
Yep.
first, safety tip in terms of fires. But
Absolutely.
when we were all out by our meeting station, John would have his health textbook, I'd have a cat, and Tim would have a wallet, and we'd all be shamed immediately. No one would feel bad for us. And
Shit, we forgot about our parents.
yeah.
Fuck. Sorry, Mom and Dad. And with that, welcome everybody to this week's episode of the Rabbit Hole Podcast. My name is Tim, joined as always by John.
What up?
And Matt.
Hey, yo.
And today we're going to be talking about the disappearance of the Sodder children.
Is that how you say it? Sodder?
Ooh.
That's how I'm going to say it.
Okay. It's
Sodder,
definitely not
Sodder.
It's definitely not solder, right?
What language is it? Or like what
Italian.
culture?
Italian.
Kind of.
Not kind of.
Kind of.
That doesn't sound too Italian to me.
Well, you'll find out why.
Because he probably changed it to yeah. So it's
I
not
thought
Italian.
you were saying like they're kind of Italian. Like,
No.
I thought like I wonder what kind of Italian looks like.
No.
Your palm isn't fully closed. It's
You're
it's
just
like
doing
it's
it
like
with the pointer
halfway.
finger and the
Yeah,
thumb.
yeah, right.
Well, today's story starts on Christmas Eve in 1945 in the small town of Fayetteville, West Virginia.
West Virginia.
George and Jenny Sodder were celebrating Christmas with 9 of their 10 children. Their oldest son, Joe, was serving off in the military.
Good on him.
Good on him. Well, keep in mind, this is 1945.
Good job,
Yeah.
Joe.
World War II was in full swing.
Oh.
The oldest daughter, Marion, was working at the local dime store, which they just sell dimes. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
No,
they,
it's like a little...
they sell dime bags.
she's a drug dealer.
Mhm.
No, it's like a local like corner store type deal.
Inflation has probably brought it to the modern day dollar store.
I was just gonna ask at what point did they stop naming them dime stores? And I think
They
I honestly
progressively-
think that's a legitimate answer.
They went dime, then quarter, then 50 cent, and then,
It's gonna be the $1.25 store soon.
yeah, it's going to be the $5 store tomorrow.
When Marion arrived home from work, she surprised her little sisters, Martha, age 12, Jenny, age 8, and Betty, age 5, with new toys for Christmas. At 10 p.m., the children asked their parents if they could stay up late to play with their new toys. The parents agreed as long as their brothers Maurice, age 14, and Louis, age 9, put the cows in and fed the chickens. Meanwhile, George, the father, and 2 of the older brothers, John, age 23, and George Jr., age 16, were asleep. They were the first to go to sleep because they had been working the whole day.
So right now this sounds like a very wholesome Christmas family picture, right? Like this, I feel like this
100%.
is the makeup of a Lifetime, A&E, or whatever it is, like those,
It's a Hallmark movie.
Yeah, it is those Hallmark movies.
Yeah.
But like any Lifetime movie, there's a nightmare on the horizon.
You're right. Yeah, it is more like a Lifetime movie because there's gonna be some awful twist that's way too dark for regular
Oh, yeah.
for cable TV.
This will not be anything like a Lifetime movie, I'm sure.
The children agreed, and Jenny went upstairs and went to bed. Then, at 12:30, the phone rings. Jenny answers it, and she doesn't recognize the voice. The voice was asking for someone who Jenny didn't know, and in the background of the call, she could hear the sound of laughter and glasses. Jenny then told the caller she had the wrong number, and she hung up. As she was going to bed, Jenny noticed that the curtains weren't drawn and the lights were still on, which are two tasks the kids are normally told to do if they're the last ones to go to bed. As Jenny was attending to these tasks, she had noticed Marion had fallen asleep on the couch. She assumed that the other children had went upstairs to the attic, which is where they slept. Jenny then attends to the curtains, and then the lights, and then heads back to bed. Then 1 a.m. comes, and Jenny has fallen back asleep. She's woken once more, this time by the sound of an object hitting the roof. She waited and heard nothing after the bang, so she assumed it was nothing and went back to sleep.
I wonder if her first thought was, holy shit, Santa Claus is real.
Yo, wait till my kids fucking freak about this.
No, it's more like, why did I spend all this money on these goddamn gifts if this asshole's real?
Did we leave him milk and cookies out this year?
Buying gifts for 9 of my 10 children was unfucking believable.
They could have been tending to the fields and the cows instead.
Holy shit, he has the same writing as George.
It's George.
They must be in cahoots.
So with that, Jenny went back to bed because she thought it was nothing. Then 1:30 a.m. comes and Jenny wakes up, this time to the smell of smoke. She gets up to see that the room that served as George's office was on fire near the telephone line and the fuse box. She woke up George and her oldest sons. George and Jenny were able to escape with four of the 9 children. The children who were able to escape were the 2-year-old Sylvia, who slept in a crib in Jenny and George's room, Marion, John, and George Jr. This left Maurice, Martha, Louis, and daughter Jenny and Betty still trapped inside the house. George attempted to get back into the house by breaking a window, slicing his arm open in the process. He got back into the house and was not able to move around that well because of all the smoke and fire. By this point, the smoke and fire had engulfed the entire downstairs of the house, and he assumed by that point that the children were hiding in 2 of the rooms upstairs, one on either end of the hallway, divided by a stairwell, which was set on fire.
I have no jokes to interrupt yet
Yeah.
because this
Yeah,
is
it's
super
like-
intense.
Yeah, no, this is like
And so like
there's
you're
a lot
sitting here
going
though,
on.
and you're like, this is crazy how detailed it is. But I'm sure because these 5 kids are nowhere to be found, the parents have had to give like so many affidavits. There's probably
Yeah.
so many official documents and paperworks out there with a minute by minute of
Oh,
the
yeah.
25th and on.
Well, all this is pretty detailed. Like all the sources I found were all incredibly detailed.
Well, think about it too, though. You have what? How big's the family?
Out of the 10 kids, 9 of them were in the house.
Yeah.
So like including the parents, you're
11.
talking about 11
Oh, so
people.
then,
in
but
the
you
house.
said 4 or 5 of them made it outside.
4
right?
got it out.
4 made it out alive.
That's like a full family in most. I mean, in what we think about.
No, and that's
So
why
you have a lot of witnesses. You know what I mean? Like now I'm
are-
not
Well,
saying I'm not saying
the
that
one witness
fours-
is like 2 months old and in a crib, so not really. Unless you got some of that Black Mirror memory bullshit, like that's hardly a witness. You can't be like, oh, my daughter saw it, and she's like, man,
I mean, if it's traumatic enough,
she'll remember it.
She'll
in
remember
therapy,
it,
but
yeah.
that means you gotta wait 20 years. So
got to play the long game.
cops ain't playing the long game on that one.
It's the case is still cold, right?
No, but if you want to talk about who was playing the long game on this one, it was the Sodder parents, because having 10 kids in 1945, you're pretty much banking on 5 of them dying. So,
Well, but you want to have as many people to help out, like, right? Like that's like the whole point.
yeah, but no, the numbers say that like you're going to lose some along the way, and they're probably all right with that.
But they got really lucky though if they had this many children and
Yeah, well, they were very fruitful and plentiful. But no,
sounds like a win to me.
George then went back outside, thinking that the best way to get to his children was to grab the ladder that he normally kept up against the side of his house. But tonight, the ladder wasn't propped up against the side of the house. He then
why was
Of course it
why does
wasn't.
he keep it? Just because he has no better place to put this ladder, or we don't know why.
You could at least lay it down to make the people do a little work.
He then had the idea to drive one of his 2 trucks that he owned up to the side of the house, climb on top of the truck, and get in through one of the upstairs windows that way. So he went to start up the first truck, but it didn't start. He then tried the second one. Both cars, which had been working the day before, were now dead. He then tried to pour water on the fire, but the rain barrel that he was going to use was frozen solid.
Okay, if this guy had all bet on any lottery tickets that night, he lost all of them horribly. This is like the worst luck possible.
It's like Christmas luck. I'm gonna play my numbers.
Yeah, or the most meticulous criminal.
He's like,
ever.
damn it, I didn't hit.
While he did this, Marion ran to the neighbor's house to try and call the Fayetteville Fire Department, but she wasn't able to get a response from an operator. One of the neighbors, though, who saw the fire from a local tavern, called the fire department, but there was no operator response.
Because it's Christmas.
It's Christmas and in the middle of World War II, so most people,
Oh, that's true.
most able-bodied men
We're overseas.
I have a feeling next you're going to say that the fire trucks came and they didn't have any water.
One of the neighbors that though saw the fire from a local
He's
tavern
getting to it.
called the fire department, but there was no operator response. So left with no other choice, one of the neighbors drove into town and found Fire Chief F.J. Morris. Morris then initiated the town's version of a fire alarm, which was called a phone tree.
So he just stood in the middle of the road going, just hoping and other people hear it, and they would then do it up the road.
Well,
It's like the was it the scene in Lord of the Rings where they're all lighting the fire and it's going from mountain to mountain?
Exactly like
Like
that.
one person hears it like, oh shit, all right, my time's come.
But more like that you... but more like that YouTube video of people screaming in Sweden.
I've searched so long to try to find that after you showed it to me, and I can't find it.
It's so easy to find.
Then I guess I'm not as good as looking up YouTube videos as I thought I was.
It's really easy to find. We'll take this offline later.
So the fire alarm was a little different from that. Actually, it was called a phone tree, which is where one firefighter just calls another one.
So it's not much different than what I was getting at.
Not really,
because like it's just like you're just getting on a phone, being like fire, and tell the others. Like our parents.
What did the message sound like at the end of it? I mean, this is just the real life version of phone, like the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
but you're also banking on every person you're calling answering in that second or within that minute on the first time.
Yep.
So,
with that being said, John makes a very valid point. Even though the fire department was a mere 2.5 miles away. So keep in mind, the house fire started at about 1:30. The fire trucks didn't arrive until 8 a.m.
wait, what? That's probably purely because they couldn't get people away.
that is
or chose not to.
that is way worse than the fire trucks not having water.
By that point,
They might as well have not had
Yeah,
water.
that's what I'm
showed up
saying.
at
It's
1.
even worse. Yeah.
the house was nothing more than an empty lot with a pile of ash.
Yeah, I mean, it's cold at that point.
They could have spit on it and done better. You know what I mean? Like they could have like
Yeah, it would have had the same effect.
throw some snow on it or whatever. It's Christmas time.
On Christmas Day, the fire department did a search of the grounds. George and Jenny were under the assumption that their 5 children died in the blaze, but there were no remains found amongst the ash. Chief Morris told the family that the fire was hot enough to cremate the bodies. A state police inspector then came to the conclusion that the fire had been caused by faulty wiring. The coroner issued 5 death certificates, stating the cause of death was by fire and suffocation.
So he
Wait, how do you make
wait,
that
the
cause
chief-
of death other than just assuming that's what happened to him? If you can't find bodies, then you can't really determine cause of death.
And now, did the chief say that it was not hot enough to burn the bodies?
Chief
or
said it was.
Okay,
It was.
hence
But
why.
then,
Okay, gotcha.
But then a fire inspector or somebody else came through and was like, I don't know about that. But honestly, man, like I wouldn't be surprised because like that thing burned for 7 hours.
I mean, I know they're supposed to be professionals and stuff, but these people got to the scene of the crime. So not scene of the crime, the scene of the fire, 7 hours late.
Yeah.
Okay.
7 hours after.
I'm gonna throw it out there. Don't know if I trust them on how to discern a bone from a pile of ashes or any bodily remains.
Well, if you're having some doubts, Matt, you're not the only one. The surviving members of the family had some questions about the official findings. They began to wonder why the Christmas lights that they had decorating throughout the house had stayed on through the early parts of the fire, if it indeed was caused by a faulty wiring in the house. Faulty
for
electrical
sure.
wiring.
And so you also have to, if they were on a farm in West Virginia in 1945, there was only a handful of wires anyways. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you had a light switch, like, to every little fixture in the house or something like that. Like, at best, it was, like, Christmas lights that were plugged into one of the 3 outlets that you probably had.
How did they charge their iPhones then?
With solar energy, you dingus.
little Jenny was constantly on the trike, mustering up some good old human-made energy.
Yeah.
Remember the ladder that George Sr. kept on the side of the house?
Uh-huh.
Well,
Yep.
they found that ladder
Where?
75 feet away from the house at the bottom of an embankment.
Huh.
Did they dust it for prints? I mean, I learned that from NCIS. You know what I mean? I learned it from all the crime shows I watch.
This is 1945, where I think the best they could do was look at it in the bottom of the embankment and go, well, fuck, that's not where that's supposed to be.
It's not, yeah, well, to Tim's point, I don't think fingerprint technology was not even remotely close to anywhere. You might be able to be like, hey, this thing has fingerprints on it, and somebody would go, great. And
Sick.
Somebody touched it.
yeah, and that would be it. But like, it's not like you're cross-referencing it with a whole database because the database didn't exist, and the database really truly didn't exist for like another 40 years.
They like bring around like an etching of the fingerprint. They're like, "Are these your fingerprints?" Maybe. I feel like
You just put your hands in like this. You're like, I don't know. You gotta find them.
The Sodders were then told by a telephone repairman that the phone line had not burned in the fire, like they previously had thought. It was, however, cut. The line had been cut by, and the neighbors identified this as a man stealing block and tackle, which is a pulley system used to remove car engines from the property.
How was the phone line cut if they were able to call the?
They weren't able to call. Remember?
So
yeah, they didn't. It was I guess somebody
no,
went and fetched the fire chief.
Oh, so somebody like went and ran that 2 miles.
They were faster than the fire
they
department
did,
themselves.
because by the time they had all gone out of the house, the
A neighbor did,
yeah,
right?
A neighbor called. They
a
didn't
neighbor
call
called.
directly from the house.
Yeah, because they couldn't go themselves because of course
a neighbor.
both.
So that's a neighbor
Yeah,
called. Okay.
yeah, because both of their trucks were dead.
Mhm.
Now the man that the police had caught, who was identified by the neighbors as being the guy who was cutting the lines, admitted to cutting the phone line because he thought it was a power line. However, records of this man's existence are nowhere to be found.
What?
Wait.
And so then that was okay.
There are
It's like-
no documents about this guy existing.
But they wrote down that they found him.
So, but why would this guy be cutting a power line on Christmas Eve? This is.
I hate Christmas trees. This house looks like a great candidate to get rid of their Christmas tree and destroy the Christmas fun. You know what I mean? Like
They just sent the one guy who celebrates Hanukkah out there to fix whatever power line on Christmas Eve.
it's like they have to look different. If he was trying to cut power lines, wouldn't you injure yourself in the process? Like, you don't cut power lines, right? Like,
I don't
Unless
believe
they
so.
were already like taken down, which other people would be
Yeah.
without power.
so this guy is damn lucky that he cut a telephone
Yeah.
wire.
or he's lying about it.
That's true.
Yep. Now, you guys mentioned earlier that you didn't believe the Chief Morris's statement that the bodies had been cremated in the fire. Well, Jenny was on the same page as you. This was because household appliances had been found in the rubble along with a piece of the tin roof. This led Jenny to do some research on her own. She looked up another house fire which had killed 7 people, and in the article she found, it was reported that skeletal remains had been found amongst the debris. Jenny also burned animal bones to see if they would be cremated in the same way that the fire chief alleges her children were. Nope.
Good on Jenny.
Yeah, conducted her own
Jenny's
experiments.
smelling something nasty here, and she's taking matters into her own hands.
And let's not discount what doing her own research actually fucking required.
oh, that's true. Yeah, that's
Like, she
completely
wasn't
true.
just like, even if you want to go back to what we had to do or people had to do in the 90s, like, she wasn't going to her local internet cafe and like doing a quick 15-minute Google search or something like that. She was literally having to go back to like records and going through like microfiche
Yeah.
more or less of like
Yep.
old newspaper cuttings and documents and stuff like that. So she did what I would expect any mother to do, which would be exhaustive fucking research about like why her kids' bodies should actually be there. But yeah, like you said, good on her for trying to
No, yeah, she's
show
taking
them up.
matters into her own hands, and she's canvassing all possible leads, it seems like, or starting to, right? And then, I'm kind of curious to see where Jenny's findings take her.
She then took a trip to the local crematorium, where she asked one of the employees how hot a fire would have to be in order to completely burn human bones. The answer? 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 hours.
Okay.
Now, I think the
That's
length
hot.
is there, but if household objects and tin from the roof
Could
were
protect it, yeah.
were found in the debris, it was definitely not hot enough.
And also, you have to burn it 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 hours. Just because you have an 8-hour house fire doesn't necessarily mean that it's ever, like you said, ever reached that temperature or even reached that temperature for long enough.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, it could be, a lower temperature after it's burned a lot of stuff for like X amount of hours. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not, and I can't answer as to what that actually is, as I'm not an expert in fire science. But
I might have to Google it real quick because it lends itself to another popular conspiracy theory. But how hot does jet fuel get?
Hot enough to burn a Sodder child?
Well, so I guess 2,000 degrees is very hot, but it's like, and especially maybe even in 1945, that could only be like a man-makeable, like you can only achieve that via
I get what you're saying. Yeah, like
man-made
if
methods.
you just burn a bunch of wood, which is what these houses were probably made out of.
Yeah.
Are you ever
exactly.
going to get? Whereas now in our modern environment, you might have chemicals, or certain substances that help make up a house that might burn at a higher temperature.
But even back then, I mean,
create a higher temperature
they
burn.
had the means, but it's not like you're gonna have those means also in the common human household that could potentially make a fire burn that hot, like whatever. Because obviously, like even then, like people have been getting cremated for however long, so that practice has been around. So people have been achieving this temperature, but.
So I just went back to the source, which is the Smithsonian Magazine.
Okay,
Fun.
all right, good set of
So,
museums.
In their article, and I lost it just now, which is terrible. Okay. This is the bit about the crematorium. This little info, which I think will help clear this. Their house was destroyed in 45 minutes.
Yeah, there you go.
So it's not like the fire even burned for the full 8 hours. It was gone in 45 minutes.
So jet fuel is anywhere from 800 to 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit. So I do not believe that this fire got hotter than your average jet beam. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's for like a smaller quantity of like jet fuel, right? Like if you put a bunch of jet fuel together, it's gonna burn at a higher temperature.
And so even more so to Tim's point, if the house really did burn for 45
I think
minutes,
that's how it works.
if it really did burn for 45 minutes, like or was engulfed in flames in 45 minutes, it took that long to achieve its max heat, like it was definitely not 2,000 or more than that, like 5,000. You know what I mean? Like, how hot would it have to be?
Ultimately, though, it's moot because it didn't burn for 2 hours.
Yeah,
And it
So-
wasn't steel beams.
yeah. I was gonna say it's made
But
out of. We're
even
talking about a house
still, it
made out of
doesn't
wood.
matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Let's pivot a little bit to the mystery of the cars. Now, George believes that the cars were tampered with because they were working just the day before. Meanwhile, in the Charleston Gazette, and this wasn't from too long ago, George's son-in-law said that he believes that George had flooded the engines in his rush to start them.
that's probably
That
much
could be
more
it. It's cold,
believable.
too. So, I mean, engines start to get a little finicky in the cold weather.
And we could be talking, and we're not talking about brand new cars here either. So I mean, unless they were, but I doubt it. They're probably remade, fixed up like jalopies.
Yeah, I feel like if there's anything that has a large amount of multiple variables to make it go wrong, the car is the most believable.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
by far.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, Tim, how many times in the length of the last 3 months has your car done a strange amount of shit in the morning before you go to work?
Too many.
Yeah, like 3 or 4 at least, and that's like a modern car.
Mm-hmm.
So if the Sodders are to be believed... I'm going to do that one again. So if the Sodders are to be believed, why would someone do this to one of the most respected middle-class families of Fayetteville, West Virginia? Well, the answer has to do with the past of George Sr. George Sodder immigrated to America in 1908 from Italy. He was born Giorgio Soddu in Tula, Sardinia in 1985.
Now
1895.
That's an Italian.
That's
name.
Italian,
That's
yeah.
Italian. Giorgio Seduna. George worked on the Pennsylvania Railroad before moving to Smithers, West Virginia, where he launched his own trucking company, where he hauled dirt and coal. It was here in West Virginia where he met his wife, Jeannie Cipriani, who had come to America from Italy when she was only 3. So the two came from Italy separate, and they met in America.
A true American love story.
Now, not much is known about why George left Italy, but what is known is that he was a very outspoken critic of Benito Mussolini.
Makes sense.
George was also well known in his town to have arguments with other members of the Italian immigrant population about the dictator. And if there's a reason someone would want to hurt the Sodders, or primarily the children, this would be the reason.
Really?
Yeah.
So we're going in the direction that Benito Mussolini did this?
No, avid supporters of Benito Mussolini.
I don't. Is that if that's a theory that the family's putting out and they might have some reason to believe that, then maybe I would lend itself. But if other people are out there on the internet or like third party distant from this situation are out there making that kind of conjecture, I'm not buying it because, okay, you're a big supporter of Benito Mussolini, yet you're living in West Virginia. All right.
Well, let's look into it.
Let us.
Let's. Matt, are you down? Can I get some ground of support?
Yeah, I think if Benito Mussolini had anything to do with this, I wanna hear it. I'm curious to think. Amongst the things that he did in Italy and in World War II, he should be known for this if he did it. You know what I mean?
When looking back, the family found instances of people being oddly aggressive towards them before the fire. In the fall, a stranger showed up at the house asking about hauling work. He made his way to the back of the house where he found the fuse boxes and said, "These are going to start a fire one day." George found this strange because an inspector had just told him that the boxes were in good condition.
Wait, so that was like a couple days before, or
I'm not sure about a couple days, but it was at least like.
How'd this guy get into their house?
He didn't get in. He was outside and then made his way to the backyard.
It was like an external
rando.
box.
What a dick.
Yeah, huge pee pee poo poo.
Yeah, how? But I mean, like,
The
Sodders aren't special. Everybody has a.
Yes.
No, but you're missing the point
The
here, man.
Sodders are
box.
special because George Sr. was an outspoken critic of Mussolini.
Oh, that's so special. But no, the guy is. The point here is somebody is trying to lay the seed that you guys are prone to accidents.
There's something about cutting power / starting fire with power that just doesn't seem fascist enough for supporters of Mussolini. I'm thinking gasoline on like a house, or fire I get, but via fuses and like fuse boxes. I think they could do better.
I don't think that's where they started the fire. I think this is just helping to build the theory or build it was electrical.
Well, let's look at the next strange instance.
Okay.
Looking back, the family found strange. After this, a man had tried to sell the Sodders the Sodder family life insurance. When George refused, the man got angry. Now, see if you can spot the subtleties here. "Your goddamn house is going up in smoke, and your children will be destroyed. You're going to be paid for those dirty remarks you've been making about Mussolini." So, did you guys pick up on that?
Can you say it again?
I'm trying to pick up on it. It seems like it might be.
I think you need to
mired in a little
slower,
in a little secrecy.
Slower and with my mouth just a little bit more open.
And I think we would understand it better, or the context of it, if the guy had he would have an Italian accent.
Sure. Let me
just to purely understand, maybe because you did it in the American accent. Now let's hear it from
and
the
it was
Italian.
too subtle with the American accent.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
all right. So let me get into character here. Okay, I'm in character. "Your goddamn house is going up in the smoke, and your children will be destroyed. You're going to be paid for those dirty remarks you've been making about Mussolini."
Mamma mia. Yeah, no, I get it now.
Yeah.
Matt, did you hear it?
I heard it.
It seems like this guy was a supporter of Mussolini,
But that's
very angry at that.
No,
Yeah.
but like that's what, like, if you were just coming up with a lie on the fly about like, "Oh, it was these people who fucking hate me because I don't support Mussolini." They're like, "Well, how do you know this?" This one guy, he came over and he said that we were all gonna die because we don't support Mussolini. Yeah. But like, that's very direct. Like, would people really say this? If he was truly a fascist, he would have way more like it'd be like a weird reference.
This is very reminiscent, or this happened before what I'm going to talk about, but this is very much mirroring what we see today with the political landscape. It's just this is what it was like pre-internet. Regardless of whether or not this guy...
You go and try sell someone life insurance.
Well, okay, that's what I'm saying. On the premise that this guy didn't burn down the Sodder family house, I mean, like, those threats like that are thrown around all the time on the internet, especially as a response to differences in political opinion.
Matt sitting here, going, "Oh, Today I learned history is cyclical. Huh. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
Mom, where's the fuse box? And can we hire a guard full time? If not, I will stay up all night.
Dude,
Fascists have always been obsessed with flames and burning things down. That's so strange. Wow. Holy
imagine
shit.
if instead of being lit on fire, the Sodders got swatted.
They were streaming.
Yeah. They're like, God, well, I'm sure one of those 10 kids would probably be like douchey enough to like incite somebody to
Well, they
swat
were
'em.
farming, so they were pretty much just doing Minecraft.
Minecraft IRA. Analog Minecraft.
Farmcraft.
Analog Minecraft.
Animal.
Glad I had to say it twice for you guys.
I had to
No,
think- I had to
yeah,
think
catch
about
on
it.
for a second. You could really just call anything that came before anything analog. That.
Yeah, like I call analog.
Smoking.
I-
Smoking is analog smoking.
Analog
You
Jules,
know
yeah.
they actually refer to it as that, right?
I know.
Vapors refer to cigarette smoking as analog smoking, analog smokers, which I think is that means that they then have to refer to themselves as digital smokers.
Digi smokes, digital smoking. So with all this, how could it get any weirder? Well, let's now look into the reports of the sightings.
Put your winky away.
A woman reported seeing missing children looking out from a passing car during the fire. Another woman, who operated a tourist stop between Fayetteville and Charleston, said she saw the children the morning after, and she said, "I served them breakfast. There was a car with a Florida license plate at the tourist court, too." So I think she saw Florida and missing kids and was like, something bad happened.
Why would they be making a Florida connection again? Did I miss that?
Probably
she-
because
they saw-
whoever kidnapped them had a car with a Florida plate.
But why though? Why are we Why would anybody?
Because
Just...
the lady said she saw somebody with Florida plates.
Oh, one person said they saw that.
Yeah.
Then a third woman said she saw the children in her hotel. She said, and I quote, "The entire party did register at the hotel and stayed in a large room with several beds. They registered at about midnight. I tried to talk to the children in a friendly manner, but the men appeared hostile and refused to allow me to talk to the children. One of the men looked at me in a hostile manner. He turned around and began talking rapidly in Italian. Immediately, the whole party stopped talking to me. I sensed that I was being frozen out, and so I said nothing more. They left early the next morning." He got fucking iced out of his fucking
Yeah.
conversation.
I was gonna then the vibes just got way too icy, and I removed myself from that situation.
And then I said, "Vibe check." And then the guy started yelling at me in Italian.
Mm-hmm.
They came up as fascist on their vibe check. I'm out of here.
No thanks, fam.
You back off, you bitch.
Well, they Asian now.
That was my Italian accent for anybody wondering.
Incredible.
I have a bad habit of all of my accents devolving into just like
Asian Jamaican.
Irish Irish goes to Jamaican and now apparently Italian to Asian. So I'm definitely not the resident
Impressionist.
impressionist on this show.
Definitely not.
It's more left to Tim.
Then, in 1947, the family turned to PI named C.C. Tinsley, who found out that one of the members of the coroner's jury, who concluded that the fire to be an accident, was the mysterious life insurance salesman from earlier.
Dude, requirement number one is for being a PI is having a crazy catchy ass name.
C.C. Tinsley.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That is a Nancy Grace book name all the way.
Like, who's the guy that was the PI?
Wait, did you say Nancy Grace book? It's fucking Nancy Drew.
Nancy Grace.
Nancy Grace
is
is the woman
fucking-
on HLN.
There are way too many Muslims.
All right, do I just redo that, or is there?
No.
Oh fuck!
You're
I'm now forever bound
hard.
to thinking that Nancy Grace.
My favorite Emma Roberts movie is where she played Nancy Grace.
Wow, that's a.
That would be something in like a South Park episode.
Honestly, that wouldn't be so weird because I think it's pretty weird that Elizabeth Banks is playing Megyn Kelly in a movie.
That is true.
I think that's pretty unnecessary.
Then the family mounted another excavation on the site where they uncovered several vertebrae, which were to be determined to be from someone aged 16, which is the age of the oldest missing Sodder.
Okay, so it's confirmed.
But
Like,
the vertebrae showed no evidence of being in contact with fire.
What?
It was placed there.
Hey, so Matt, you
why
left-
would somebody place it there? They
cover
went
their
through the whole
tracks, baby.
effort. They went. Oh,
Being like, oh, fuck, oh, shit, oh, God, oh, damn, we forgot to plant the evidence. Oh, fuck, oh, shit. Oh, God, oh, damn.
get the spine out of the little girl.
But their story. No, wait. What?
Someone
This
get
doesn't
me at the
make- This doesn't make
spine.
any sense. This
A
doesn't make any
Fabrizio.
sense. The insurance salesman came, and we thought that maybe he committed the thing, but then there's no bones in the fire. But everyone says that the kids probably died in it anyway. So if it was an insurance thing, you'd get your money regardless. And now there's a vertebrae in there, but then they're saying that it never came in contact with the fire.
No, I don't think it's a conspiracy to commit insurance fraud.
No,
Tim.
because George Sodder
no, it's the
yelled at the guy.
The conspiracy is that whoever took the kids killed probably one of them and then put the spine back at the scene of the crime.
Yeah.
So that when they were found, they were like, oh, well, because people were actually maybe picking up on too much of the scent that the kids never died in that fire. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So, because
I guess.
and it's actually kind of interesting too
Yeah.
if you think about this most recent season of True Detective. So of the 5 kids that were taken, 2 of them were boys and 3 of them were girls. There's a good chance that those boys were taken because like they were trying to like save the 3 girls from getting taken or something like that. So you know right away that they are the most expendable. So
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean,
if this is what I have, if 5 kids are taken and they're being funneled out of the country, it's always for sex trafficking or funneled into Florida, no matter, because
or in
so
True
many
Detective's case, some strange rituals.
strange rituals. No, you were just kidnapped to be some mentally deranged woman's child that she lost.
Well, season 1 they did the
In season
yeah.
1, yes.
Welcome to the True Detective podcast.
the companion podcast for True Detective.
Everything is inspired by True Detective
That's
that
true.
I want to do. So,
Undeterred by being told that their case was hopeless, George and Jenny still held out hope that their children were still alive. They set up a billboard on Route 16 with pictures of the children and offered $5,000 for as a reward for information, which then soon jumped to $10,000. The family then received a letter from St. Louis saying that Martha was living in a convent there. Then, another tip came from Texas, where a patron at a bar overheard someone talking about a Christmas Eve house fire in West Virginia. Then, in 1967, Jenny received a letter in the mail only addressed to her from Kentucky. Inside was a photo of a man in his 20s with a handwritten note. The note read, Louis Sodder, I love brother Frankie, A90132, or 35.
what?
What the fuck?
What is? Well, Frankie was the brother, George's brother, right?
I don't believe there was a brother named Frankie.
Dude, this is starting to reek of something that so many people in our modern times have poured hours over trying to. Because, I mean, now you're getting into, like, one of the theories that has, like, these little tangible pieces of evidence that need to be deciphered, right?
Yeah.
And, like, I can only imagine how many people have taken a look at these things and tried to crack them and stuff. Because even, like, right now, I'm trying to think, like, what the hell does... or 30, you know what I mean, A0, whatever that was, like that number, and just like the crypticness of the phrase.
Yeah.
Well, George and Jenny were convinced that the photo included was a picture of their son, so they sent a private investigator to Kentucky to investigate.
What was this private investigator's name? Do we know?
I don't know, but they never heard from him again after they sent him
It
away.
was just James Smith.
No, they never heard from him again. They sent him away, and he ceased contact with the Sodders.
Really?
Yep.
Either he found something that made him meet his demise, or he just liked the area he went to and he settled down.
It's probably that. He's like, shit, it's nice here.
Yeah.
Why would I go
I
back?
met a woman. I got a family. Don't want to have any of the energy that the Sodders have.
A voodoo woman named Phyllis. I'm living large.
Yeah, let's do a quick vibe check on the Sodders. And they failed. They set up a billboard.
Yeah, I mean, One billboard outside Fayetteville, West Virginia. Not nearly as catchy a movie title.
Starring
Also,
Francis McDormand.
they were not as effective in terms of the marketing of this than the lady inside 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri
Yeah,
was.
she had him beat by 2 billboards.
That too. Yep, you're right. But she was
Probably way more people too, because there probably was not a lot of people reaching this. Their impression rate was very low.
also yeah, right.
Yo,
Didn't,
Soders, get a better
got very-
SEO on
Yeah.
your fucking dead kids.
Also, 10,000 was a lot of money for back in like that.
I was gonna
time,
say
right?
that's 100% why you got that call from Texas, because like you just had a junkie being like, maybe they'll give it to us.
Oh, give it a long shot. I mean, maybe it'll work out. But I mean, how did they get that money? Like, was it like? I mean, is that like the
It's like usually
somebody started Kickstarter?
what 1945 version of a Kickstarter was, which is usually like donations at a church, and like I think municipal funds also get used to help find these kids, because it's also like a joint like venture by like the police department. Obviously.
They're at church and they're like, all right, fellow parishioners, today we'd like to hold a collection for the Sodder family. So I'll pass around the basket. If you could all put in whatever you can offer to give, please do so. And I also love Benito Mussolini. I think he's a great person. I do not wish any harm to him. And I hope that the integrity and safety of my family stays much in check.
So I found a conversion calculator. So I'm going off in 1945 because I'm not exactly sure what time or what year rather the billboard went up in. So in 1945, the time of the fire, $10,000 in today's money is $136,000 or $136,177.78.
It's
Fucking,
that's
that's
a
a
huge
good
chunk of
chunk of
change.
change.
That's a lot of money, but you can put it together. Like, if people gave, 5 kids are missing, enough people would give a shit about it to, like, donate and put together it. But, again, going back to the last season of True Detective, all this money coming in should be looked at if there's one major donor, which is probably the people who took the kids in the first place.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah,
so
yeah.
so that is a lot of money. I'm not disagreeing with you that it isn't a lot of money. I think it is a lot of money, but I do think that could be raisable on a large enough like initiative scale.
It's Mussolini money.
It is Mussolini money. Musi money.
I think that's the name of a new rap single.
Ooh.
Yo, we got Musi money.
In 1968, George Sodder Sr. died, still not having any answers about his children. Jenny, who had been only wearing black since the fire, died in 1989. After they died, the billboard came down, but the relatives of George and Jenny continued to search for answers. They came up with their own theories about what happened to the 5 children, ranging from abduction by the mafia to them being kidnapped by someone they knew who had barged into the house through the unlocked door to try and save them from the fire.
Yeah. And that's it. Like, that's just what they died. That's what they died holding on to more than the fact that the kids actually died in the fire.
Well, these are theories started by the relatives after George and Jenny died.
Oh, okay.
Those Thanksgiving Day conversations must have been a real hoot in the Sodder extended family circle.
What happened to George Jr.? Can you pass the stuffing?
5 less mouths to feed, though. We all get a little bit more turkey this year.
Gobble, gobble, kids.
Silver lining, am I right? Oh,
You think it
jeez.
was fascist, Janet? God, what's gotten into your brain? What, you have too much turkey this Thanksgiving? It was probably the mafia.
Do you think it's a coincidence that it was your 5 worst nieces and nephews, like most annoying? Like, they were kind of big pieces of shit, those kids. So
They never said thank you after their birthdays.
No,
So,
the one
you know
always loved to spit in my hair as I was leaving. The one was a little devil, so
what? It always gave me side eye. I never knew why.
that stink eye, that Sodder stink eye, always so lethal.
Cuts right down to the soul.
Sylvia, the youngest Sodder, who was only 2 at the time of the fire, as of 2015, was the last known remaining member of the Sodder family, and she doesn't think her siblings died in the fire. But she did say that her first memories were of her father's arms bleeding after punching out the glass on that fateful night. But what actually happened we may never know. And that, my friends, is the story of the children of the Sodder family.
Children of family Sodder.
I mean, if all of those stories with the Italians were true, then Benito Mussolini had his feet and hands wet with, he was fighting a global front, right? He was taking care of stuff. He was doing stuff in the European front, but this is like his like black ops, like CIA, like mission, right? I mean, like this is crazy that that's even like a remote possibility.
Well, it's not so much that Mussolini like ordered this. It's just that people were such rabid fans and vibrant supporters of Mussolini that they attacked this family.
Yeah, but he was so
by 1945, I don't think he'd been thrown out of power yet, but like Italy had well been out of the war effort by that point.
I did read that before the fire, Mussolini had been overthrown.
Had been overthrown. Yeah, so and even after he was overthrown, George Sodder was actively speaking against Mussolini. Yeah, of course, as he would, because he was like, look, the guy was a fucking crackhead, but and so what that more so does speak to is that Mussolini was losing his grip on the country well before that. So I guess it is maybe more possible that people who are like, shit, it's fucked here, but like we're going so we're gonna go somewhere else, but but we'll still support him in these tranches. I still don't necessarily buy
tranches.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like I still don't necessarily buy that it's these avid supporters, because unless you get the whole town in on it, which would insinuate that they were all Mussolini supporters, which I guess could be possible. That they're all like
pretty wild.
That they're all like fellow travelers in the fascist community in that sense.
And they just got in with like the wrong bunch.
You don't necessarily need the whole town. You just need
enough of
the Italian immigration portion, which there was a substantial amount.
So I guess that's possible, but like so many of them did leave Italy because of Mussolini. So it's just so hard for me to believe that they're all like, get those Sodders. I would sooner believe that the community just found them to be like this really annoying McPoyle type family, that they were just like, I don't give a fuck what happens to them. They're so smelly and
that
annoying.
would be like an old version of, it would be like an old fascist version of the Stepford Wives. Like all these people who are like the same community, and then outsiders come in and they're like, oh, you're different. Mm-hmm. We're going to kill you.
Yeah.
It's like the that episode of SpongeBob where Squidward moves into the community of just Squidwards.
Mm-hmm.
Were you Squidward? It's okay. Take your time.
It's okay. He was the least Squidwardy.
Except in this instance, Squidward talked heavily against being a Squidward.
Ooh, you're so right.
But
well, with that, do you guys have any closing thoughts about the Sodders?
I think it's very plausible that something happened to those kids other than dying in the fire. But if there's one thing all these documentaries over the last few years have taught me, you're at the hands, and especially in these smaller villages and towns across America, and even across the world, you're at the hands of the most qualified individuals, in charge of your police department and in charge of your fire department, fire investigation. So the fact that there are hardly any conclusive facts that point to one answer either way I don't think it's as much a conspiracy as it is just shoddy, work on the part of police and fire inspectors. But there are enough inconsistencies for 1945, I guess.
And I think too, the only part that draws me to really believe that it wasn't as simple as the house burning and the kids, subsequently dying in the fire. There's so many like bad luck coincidences that happened on that night.
Yeah.
The ladder being 75 feet away in an embankment, both cars not starting. I mean, it's Christmas. The water barrel could totally be frozen. That's fine. But that's
someone froze the
But
water.
like the cut telephone line.
But the one point
the
about
fire chief not being able to be alerted in a timely manner. I mean, like,
yeah, that's the thing. It's like it's not a
like,
conspiracy against them.
so
it's
what?
just
Did
a conspiracy to
did
be
ev-
lazy?
Yeah, but like, then what? Did every fucking, did every fire in this town take 8 hours to respond to? You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Well, maybe
I
the ones
just-
on Christmas during World War II did. I don't know.
and I think even if the rest of the shit is a coincidence, then the person who cut the power or cut the telephone line should be like somewhat. Then they have to be
Right.
related to this.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
for at least doing something that prevented people from potentially having their lives saved.
there's far too many coincidences to say that like this was just a run of the mill accident.
Yeah, and as soon as you kind of made that point about him potentially flooding the car engines, that's where you're automatically like, you can't actually expect this guy to remember every little inch and detail of what was going on. Maybe he forgot that he put the ladder on the side, and it just ended up down the ditch because the fire crew was trying to just clear away and threw it down that way to make room or something.
Also, like, what kind of investigation techniques did they follow? Not that I'm an expert, but I do watch CSI, so I'm just.
So you're an expert.
Yep. So
Probably more of an expert than any of those people were
refer
at
to
that
me as
time.
such. That's what I'm saying, though. Like, okay, like the dad. Okay, the ladder isn't where it should be. Both cars are flooded. Who knows? Maybe dad did the whole thing. Like, maybe he did want money for insurance and just fucked the whole thing up, wonderfully. Like I mean, it doesn't seem like they're like, oh yeah, the house burned down. It couldn't have been any of the multitude of people on the premise.
Well, these are all incredible points to consider. So with that, we'll wrap it up on today's episode. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and thank you, John and Matt, as always, for chiming in. A beautiful, beautiful episode.
Thank you. I'd like to also give a quick thank you to the listeners that we've had so far. Yep, that's us actually cheering. Yeah, we just clapped a bunch right now, and we actually have a full orchestra or a full crowd of people here. No, but yeah, from all of us to all of our listeners so far, we appreciate the support, and we look forward to putting out more episodes.
Yeah, keep listening and spreading the love, and tell your friends, tell your friends, tell your friends.
Your family, tell your dog, your cat, which I hope you rescue in a fire.
Keep buttering that bread.
Yeah, that too. So here we go. We got a list: friends, family, cats, dogs, and
Wallets.
wallets, and butter your bread.
Honestly, with that being said, everybody, remember, butter your bread.